Hey guys, it's Sarah with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we have a review and install of the Red Rock 4x4 Pocket Style Fender Flares, fitting your 19 and newer Chevy Silverado 1500. This is perfect for the Silverado owner who's looking to add some rugged off-road style to their truck, as well as some protection without breaking the bank. These pocket-style fender flares feature a durable polypropylene construction with a UV-treated black finish that you can leave as is or paint to match your truck. They add approximately 3 inches of width to your truck to provide more coverage for wider wheels and tires, to keep you street legal and protect you from rock chips as well. They are sold as a set of 4 flares with all necessary mounting hardware included. So as far as the price goes, these come in at around $200, which makes them the most budget-friendly option for your Silverado. And for your money, you are getting the added protection and style while saving some money over more expensive options. And as far as the install goes, I'm giving this one a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. It does feature a direct bolt-up installation with no modification required and can be done within 2 hours. So with that said, let's check out our install. For this install, you will need a ratchet, T15 and T45 Torx sockets, a Phillips head bit or a Phillips head screwdriver, a 13mm wrench, and you may want some needle nose pliers and a razor knife. Alright, so the first step in our install is with the fender flare on the table to install the hardware in the front side of it. You'll have to do this to each of your flares. Simply line up the bolt side with a washer and the nut on the back side. Once installed, grab a 13mm wrench and a T45 Torx socket or the bit that they include, and go ahead and tighten it down. Repeat that with the rest of the holes in your flare. Alright, so at this point, once you have all of the bolts installed, you can now install weather stripping around the outside of the fender flare where it would contact the paint on your truck. Open up the inside of this weather stripping a bit and start to peel back the covering on your double-sided adhesive. Just peel it as you go so you don't take too much off. Slide it over the flare. We're just going to work our way around the outside. As you install it, just pinch it so it sticks to ensure it doesn't move around. And then right where your weather stripping will come to an end on the flare, use a razor knife or razor blade. I'm just gonna pull it back a little bit so to cut it. and make sure it's fully installed and sticking to your flare. All right, now that the prep work on this flare is complete, repeat those steps on the remaining 3 flares. So with all of the prep work done on the flares, we're now gonna begin by installing the front flare. The first thing you're gonna do is grab a T40 Torx socket and remove the 2 bolts that are holding on the splash guard behind your wheel. Using the T15 Torx socket, go ahead and remove these 2 bolts. With the second bolt removed, you can grab the guard and pull straight towards you to release a clip up top here. At this point, we're gonna remove 3 more Torx screws in the top of the wheel well. Grab your T15 Torx socket and go ahead and remove them. At this point, you can install these 2 pieces of the clip together so that we can get it installed right about here on your fender. What you're gonna do is take this opening and slide it through the opening in the second clip. Maybe a little bit difficult to line up. If it doesn't go, you can grab a pliers and clip it together like this. Grab the clip and slide the opening over your fender. Now these need to clip together. So if you can't do it by hand, you can also throw your needle nose in there again and squeeze until it clips onto your fender. Now we're moving on to the other side of the wheel well. We're gonna install one of these little protectors right over top of the inside of your fender. You can hold your flare up a second time just to double check that you're going for the right spot. But what you wanna do is when you measure that, pick your spot, put on the protective cover, and then we're gonna grab one of these clips, different from the ones we just had, and slide it over top. At this point, you can grab your flare and hold it up to your truck. What we're gonna do is start with the top 2 mounting points. These go to your factory mounting points. So slide the factory hardware through the flare and start to thread it in place. Grab your T15 Torx socket and tighten it down. Repeat that with the other mounting point up top, grabbing your factory hardware and lining it up to the factory hole. Grab your T15 Torx socket and tighten it down. And finally, install the 3rd factory bolt into the factory mounting location through your fender flare. Grab your T15 Torx socket and tighten it down. And line up your fender flare to that clip that you installed up front. Grab the included hardware. And with a Phillips head bit or a stubby Phillips screwdriver, tighten it down. Moving on to the other side of the wheel well, line up the other clip that you installed with the included hardware. Grab a Phillips head screwdriver or a Phillips bit and tighten it down. Line up the final 2 factory holes towards the bottom of the flare. Grab your T15 Torx socket and tighten them down. And finally, install the last factory screw through the fender liner. Grab your T15 Torx socket and tighten it down. All right, so now we're moving on to the rear fender flares. What we're gonna start with is removing these mud flaps at the front and the back by grabbing a T15 Torx socket and removing the Torx bolts that are holding them on. Grab your T15 Torx socket, let's get these out. There's another one a little bit lower down on the same piece. And a third one all the way in the back. This one might be a little bit hard to see, but if you follow the plastic trim, you will find it. Once you have those out, remove the entire trim piece off of your truck by pulling straight out towards you. Moving on to the back trim piece, go ahead and grab your T15 and remove the 2 bolts back here as well. Grab the flare and mock it up on the truck. We're going to take note of where each of the mounting points are. And you can grab a marker and you can mark it if you like, or you can just measure it up and take note. And then we're going to pull the flare away, peel back the protective film, and stick this protective square over top of where your mounting point is. And then you're going to grab one of these clips, these are the same that we use up front, and slide it over the edge of your fender. Moving on to our next mounting point, again, we were mocking up the flare to find out where this is. Slide the protective square over top, and then install the clip right where the square is. Repeat that with the rest of your mounting points. At this point, you can hold the fender flare up to the truck, grab the included hardware, line up the mounting points, and go ahead and thread it in. Grab a Phillips head screwdriver or the Phillips head bit. Go ahead and tighten it down. Move on to the rest of your mounting points, lining up your hardware and installing it. Moving on to the factory mounting points, this is where you will install the factory hardware. Make sure your flare is lined up and go ahead and thread it in. Grab your T15 Torx socket and tighten it down. Moving on to the other side of the wheel well, continue to install the included hardware into the clips that you've previously installed. Grab your Phillips and tighten it down. And finally, install the factory bolt all the way at the end of the flare. This one may be hard to see, but it goes right to your factory location. Grab your T15 Torx socket and tighten it down. All right, so now that you have the passenger side installed, repeat those exact same steps for your driver's side. And then that is gonna do it for the review and install of these fender flares. And remember, for all things Silverado, keep it at AmericanTrucks.com.